Hello and welcome to Exploring Careers in Tech. Today I'm joined by Sim Chiwanza, and we're just going to be talking about his career path and his career journey, how he got to this point. Welcome, Sim.
Thank you very much.
Can you please just tell us more about yourself and what you do for a living?
Sure. I'm a cybersecurity professional. I do cybersecurity for major banks, financial institutions, and the like. I'm 29. I'm a very young man, actually.
Yeah.
I think that's important to raise because in my industry, there's a lot to say about young people breaking into it. And,
Yeah, exactly.
but yeah, that's generally what I do. I'm a cybersecurity professional.
Okay, interesting. So, as you said, you're very young, and that's a key point, actually. Like, how did you get into this industry and you are so young? Because mostly the people that I actually work with, I've interviewed, they're in their 40s or whatever. So how did you get in this industry and you're so young? And how did you what is your kind of career path, career journey?
Sure. Look, I like that question because career paths would be different for different people, right? Getting into the industry is a factor of so many things. I think once you have some idea what you'd like to do with your life, pretty much you'll be able to map your way there. However, getting to the top and playing the game at the right levels, is different for every individual. I think there's a lot of key factors that come into play into determining how fast you can move within the corporate world, even as an entrepreneur. So in my journey in particular, I realized that aside from education, aside from skill, and aside from, being in the right industry, getting to play the game at the right levels at a young age was definitely, a factor of how much you knew and your personality. And I think being at the right time, having the right discussions at the right time as well. So that's probably what, played a big role into me getting to where I am right now at what some people would call a young age, but I see myself as not being so young. I think in comparison to other people, I would be, but I think I'm definitely at a stage where much is required and expected of me. I've got a lot of accountability and a lot of responsibility, and I think younger people who are younger than me right now should also aim for the exact same thing. I think once you're above a certain age, getting up to managerial levels, senior managers, or even being an entrepreneur and starting a company that makes a lot of money and millions and all those sorts of things, it stops being about age, but it starts to be about being at the right time, opportunity, really, you and opportunity meeting at a certain time. And again, like I said, the individual, the person themselves and who they are and how they carry themselves and the ideas they have. I think those sorts of things really set you apart in the world and push you towards a certain trajectory.
Okay, interesting. So, how would you say, let's say, networking played a role into your into your career? Because I know being a chief is actually at the top. Actually, being a chief information security, as you say. So, how did you kind of navigate, and what specific subjects did you have to study? What was your kind of education background, and maybe for people that are kind of coming out of school or trying to get into maybe starting school, what would you say to them?
Sure. If I can answer the question differently, right, as opposed to trying to map out a career path, again, right, focusing on the principles and the values behind all of this. Maybe in 10 years, the information you have to learn is going to be very different. Maybe the degrees you have to do are going to be very different. Breaking into the industry will be dependent on things that we may not be considering right now with the advent of all the innovative technologies that we see right now in 2024. But I think the underlying principles are always going to be the same. At my level right now, there's a very, very big focus. A huge chunk of my time is actually spent on learning new things, immersing myself in new ways of thinking, understanding information, consuming it voraciously, right? And that's only because of sort of the problems that I have to solve and how complex they are, how ambiguous they are. I would say for someone trying to break in the industry who maybe has come up with a plan of eventually being somewhere like in a leadership position, that the most fundamental thing you could do is to always seek knowledge, look for it, learn new things. Networking plays definitely a big part. I think once you get to a certain point in your life, you realize that relationships are by far one of the most important things in getting what you want. So it's definitely building relationships is very important. And not only building the relationships, but being able to negotiate and being able to influence the individuals that you build those relationships with starts to form part and parcel of your success.
Interesting. Nice. So like maybe I'm going to university next year. I'm starting university. I don't have an idea because as far as I know, when speaking on a personal level, I didn't really know anything about maybe being a chief before I started studying. What type of course or like educational path would you recommend to someone that wants to reach your level? Like, what should they study in school to kind of like navigate to that point?
Sure. And allow me again to flog a dead horse here and speak about sort of the principles and the values that underlie this. But then towards the end, I'll also give some specifics about what people can do right now in 2024.
Yeah.
I think at any point in your life, if you've got a goal that you've set for yourself, it becomes very easy to take 5 or 6 steps before that goal and kind of map out a path how you get there. Okay. If you're talking about education, because education would be a component of what you would need to get to where you're going, right? Okay. Relationships would be another. Okay. In many cases, finance, capital can also play a part in terms of getting you to where you want to be, right? But let's talk about the education component. I think, again, maybe 10 years from now, the education that's required could be very, very, very different. Whereas maybe now you need to consume a whole book and remember it and memorize it. Perhaps in the future, the ball game is different. Maybe it's not about knowing a lot of things, but being able to integrate the knowledge and utilize it to solve problems, right? So that's an entirely different skill set. They're very, very different, right? From reading a book, going to university for a couple of years and learning a couple of things.
Okay.
So I think really focusing on doing your research to find the most valuable pieces of information that will get you to where you're trying to go in the shortest amount of time. And dedicating yourself to do it within that time is by far the best principle that I can give someone in university right now trying to break into cybersecurity. Okay. Some practical tips, practical courses would be to immerse yourself in a lot of online, tools that help you to build core cybersecurity skills. And it could be anything, right? It could be analyzing a piece of data to see whether or not there's been a hack or a breach. It could be penetration testing or ethical hacking. Nice. Doing the actual, hacking yourself. It could be some piece of risk management work, or risk management certification, of course. So anything really that ties into one of the many domains of information security, cybersecurity, and obviously the fundamental areas that underpin what cybersecurity is. Immersing yourself in those things, doing a course that eventually leads you to some type of certification would be a very good way to attest that you've got the knowledge to be in the industry and to break into it. And I'd advise people who are in university to start that very early so that by the time they are about to finish their degree, they can get an internship or something like that.
Interesting.
And perhaps maybe when they do graduate, they're able to get a job as an intern or as an analyst with that certification to back up the degree that they have.
Nice. Okay. I have a special question that, most people really go through, especially in our age zone. Let's say when you're applying for a job, you see the requirements, they tell you you need about 5 years experience, 10 years experience, and you just a graduate. How did you you personally break through those barriers, and how do you suggest for other people, how do you end up getting a position and you don't necessarily have experience and you actually want to get into that career?
Sure. Again, my experience could be unique. I used to have a friend. He told me this story about how he got many promotions only because there were no other people to get the job. If you think about that, there's very few barriers to getting up the ladder only because there's no one else to be a competitor. Yeah. However, the industry is quite competitive nowadays. So you do really have to stand out, either in you knowing certain things that other people do not know, or being able to convey that information in ways that other people cannot convey it to different people at different times. Or again, maybe just being the right person at the right time when your skill is needed. And that's a very difficult thing to learn a core skill that is worth something to someone else. But I think once you're able to define that value, to identify what are the valuable things that the industry needs, that the world needs, essentially the problems, and trying to build yourself in such a way that when people see you, they see a solution to their problems. It virtually becomes very easy, to navigate certain environments, especially if you have high value because of the skills that you have, the knowledge that you have, or anything else that sets you apart within that environment. It becomes very, very easy, much, much easier than it is for someone else. The barriers seem to fall away because I think the barriers are there, to basically filter out, the chaff and all those sorts of things, but also to identify the people that do stick out. Because if you can't get past the barrier, it probably means something that sets you apart. So I think that's what I would say quickly. Just build value, be able to build up that value by understanding problems and becoming the solution to those problems. It quickly elevates your value.
Oh, nice. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. Thanks very much for having me.
Yeah, and we'll be catching you in the this year's edition of the CISO directory. And you guys stay tuned.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd just like to add as well, I may be in this book, the CISO directory, but I hope to release my own book as well. I'm working on a company right now, a new startup, a tech venture called Verify Security.
Okay.
So I do hope that at one point in time, you're interviewing me as part of this book about the insights that I've gathered over the years.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask, maybe what next for you is for your tech journey, in your tech career. Where do you see yourself maybe in the next 2-3 years?
Sure. I mean, some of the advice that I've given you and I've given the viewers is around entrepreneurial thinking, but in the corporate space, it would be the exact same thing, but maybe termed differently, entrepreneurship. But it's, innovative thinking and problem solving being what pushes you to get to new levels within your career or anywhere else that you're working. For me, I'm driven by that. It drives me to wake up in the morning, and what I'm trying to do for the world right now is to make it a safer place, especially digitally, for people to feel safe when they're online, to know that their data is theirs and no one's going to use it for any nefarious purpose. And I want to bring that to the world and just make it a very safe place to be online and digitally.
Okay.
And I just spoke about my startup right now, but that's in my head and somewhere on a server.
Mm-hmm.
But I hope that one day it grows much, much bigger than that. And you're there to see it too.
For sure. I would definitely root on you for that. Thank you very much for that.
Thanks very much.
Make sure you subscribe and tune in to the next one. Thank you.